The other day, a video by Nick Carlson Press got released titled Reimagining Security Breach. The video served as a critique against Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach and offered a personal reimagining of what a good version of the game would be. However, this video was immediately brought into infamy and controversy in the FNAF community for the amount of uncensored and overly detailed child gore and mutilation. It was seen as total gore porn. However, the discussions of this controversial video got me thinking a little bit. Does Five Nights at Freddy's need gore to be scary? Now, the FNAF franchise is no stranger to having dark topics throughout it. The series is about children getting murdered by a man, and the children going on to possess lifeless animatronics. Of course, a premise like that is certainly dark, and you would think that this would entail for gore to take place. However, if you played the games, you would notice that there isn't any visceral imagery depicting bloodshed or gore or anything on those lines, and you would think that since these are horror games, it's required to have it. But in FNAF's case, I think the lack of gore works in its favor. Ever since the first game, the lack of disturbing imagery like that gave FNAF its own identity in the horror scene. The fact we only hear about it instead of actually seeing it gives off this very eerie, mysterious, and ambiguous vibe to the player, which fits in with the tone the games were originally about. The fact you ask questions about the details of what happened is the lingering factor that creeps you out with this series. If you saw the violence and blood and everything, then the mysterious factor that was set up within you is just gone, and you're just left with a typical horror game experience. Now, FNAF has in fact shown blood before. The FNAF 3 Night 5 minigame shows Afton dying. However, it's in 8-bit minigame form, so the charm of it all is still intact. Springtrap himself could be seen as another example of gore in the series, but he's not overly disgusting, he's menacing, and honestly, he looks more withered away than gory. Hell, the books tell stories that involve overly gory and bloody situations, but they're only described and not shown because they're books. Five Nights at Freddy's thrives on the lack of what we see when it comes to how its darker side is portrayed, which continues to be effective. Yes, Security Breach definitely could have been more scary and offered some more horror, but if this reimagining of the game as presented in this video was what Security Breach truly turned out to be, then it would be too much, which is the opposite extreme of the current game and would result in the same problem the game already has of lacking FNAF's true identity. So no, FNAF doesn't need gore to be scary, and quite frankly, the current lack of it enhances the horror of the series even more, and continues to make the original games by Scott Cawthon truly timeless horror games that are worth remembering.